Hey guys, JD here with another episode of For the Good of the Game. Sitting here with me today is the repunt turner for the NFL 75th anniversary all-time team. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame and in the Philadephia Sports Hall of Fame. A Division III product out of Widener College who has been ranked in the top 5 best return men in NFL history. The man, the myth, and certainly the legend,
Billy White Shoes Johnson.
Billy White Shoes Johnson, he was the first of the great return men in the NFL.
He was the first returner that developed a strong identity. Billy White Shoes.
White Shoes.
White Shoes?
A little feller they called Billy White Shoes.
An electrifying return by Billy White Shoes Johnson.
Little number 84, Billy Johnson. A slippery escape artist who can turn a simple punt return into a geometry lesson.
Best way to describe it is trying to catch a hummingbird or maybe a lightning bug because Billy was everywhere.
Johnson at the 30, 20, touchdown Billy Johnson.
In my mind, Billy White Shoes Johnson is the greatest return man ever. He should be number 1. In fact, this list is a sham if he's number 3. He should be number 1.
Coach, we really appreciate you being here to hang out with us today.
Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me.
It's going to be great. Coach, I want to get right into something, do a little myth busting right off the bat. You have quite a history, and I'd like everybody to know, in terms of the White Shoes nickname, where that came from. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that name was given to me back in high school. It was we were all sitting on a porch one day, just out there talking smack, truthfully, having fun, and the guy asked, he says, if you're so good, he says, I have an idea for you. Why don't you paint your shoes white? You're going to be a quarterback. You like Joe Namath, so why don't you? And just crazy stuff. He said a lot more, and we start jaw-jacking back and forth. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I like to challenge then. They were daring me, so I went and had my shoes dyed. I had like 2 pairs of good shoes. At that time, they were kangaroo leather. And I was able to go to a nice cobbler then, a great guy who handled, did all the shoe work.
Sure.
So he was able to do that, and it looked like they were brand new. You couldn't even tell that they were dyed. And that's what happened. I started wearing them and went to a training camp for practice during the summer. And, I wore the shoes, and the coach didn't say anything for a while. So later on, in one of the afternoon practice, he said, hey, what's up with the white shoes? Because he didn't like the frills and thrills. He was a no-nonsense guy.
That's awesome.
So he looked at me one day and said, what's up with them? So for a better excuse, I didn't have no excuse. I just said, hey, they make me run faster. He said, okay. So later on that afternoon, we had a scrimmage. And I had a good scrimmage, and he never said another word about them. Never said another word.
I love
that. I really got the name by there was a team in our conference that was the number 1 rated defense throughout the whole county. And I had a good game. We scored a lot of points on them. And the newspaper editor came because it was family day, and he dubbed me the name of Billy White Shoes Johnson. I'll never forget Mr. Ed Gephardt doing that. I thought it was hokey at the time, and I said, oh, man, but it was the best thing ever happened to me, nicknames.
That's awesome. And what's funny is when I first met you, we were walking toward one another in the hotel lobby in Orlando for the camp we were doing, and you had white shoes on. Of course, I'd seen your picture, and I'd seen you play, but I came up and I said, Billy White Shoes, I presume, but the main clue from a distance was I will look down to check and see. So second, a little bit of myth busting here. What is the origin of the funk? I mean, you were really credited by most people with being the guy who coined the end zone dance, came up with the idea of an end zone celebration after a touchdown. What's the origin of the Funky Chicken?
That was probably going playing a rival ball club of ours and saying some things and being challenged by, once again, going to get you in trouble all the time, challenged by the teammates. And I said, if I score against these guys, because they were our arch rival, and I said, I'm going to dance. And at that time, Rufus Thomas was out. Just having fun, just, crazy things. And it was spontaneity. I said, I got to do something when I scored. And I said, I told him I would dance, so I danced because you didn't want to welch on the bet. So that's how I started doing the Funky Chicken.
That's great. Now, I imagine that once you got into the NFL, and we're able to build on that a little bit. The whole thing with the splits and the spike and all that kind of came in.
Well, that was down the road because when I first did it in the NFL, I thought that was the biggest hot dog trick you could do. Because you're in the big leagues, they say. When you're in the big leagues, you don't act bushy.
You don't
hot dog it. And I said, oh, my goodness. I was just so excited. And it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was our end around. And I got it, and I outran the secondary, and I was just so happy to get into the end zone. Who knows? That would be their first trip to the Super Bowl champs, to becoming Super Bowl champs. And I did it, and I said, oh, gosh. Thank goodness Bum was there, and Sid Gilman could care less at that time. So when I did it, I would have asked Bum. I said, man. He said, well, shoot, if that's what it takes, he said, I hope to see more of it. That kind of a deal. I said, oh, man, it was no big deal. We just have, because I never tried to stick it in somebody's face. I always got away from them and to the end zone. I mean, even they liked it. They just didn't want me to do it.
That's awesome.
Our opponents.
Hey, Coach, let's talk a little bit about the game today. They've designed some new targeting rules. Of course, safety of the players is a big thing. Right. And, we had some guys back in the day, the Jack Lamberts of the world that would just crush guys coming across the middle. They've designed this stuff for safety of the players as well as to kind of speed and clean up the game a little bit. The new targeting rule, from your perspective as a return man and wide receiver, what do you think about that, as far as safety, advantages, disadvantages to the game?
It's challenging. It really is. I can see both sides of it. But for me, football's football. I think sometimes when you try to stay within the guidelines, you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to help the opposing team. I just think you got to go out there and play, do what you normally do, be instinctive. You're not trying to hurt somebody or cripple somebody, and let the chips fall where they may. I'm not a big proponent of it because some of the things they do, what's a cheap shot or what's targeting your eyes may not be targeting in my eyes, even with the officials and officiating. It's something that is, you can tell when somebody does it maliciously. Like one of the games I saw past week, against Clemson when they played Ohio, that kid wasn't trying to hurt the quarterback.
Right.
The quarterback ducked his head, and so happened he went through him and hit him. To me, that was a bad call. That was a bad call, and of course, to change the complexion of the game. That's what happens sometimes when it is a discretion call. It's hard. I truly understand it, but football's football. It's a game of spontaneity. You got to go out there. You got to think on your feet. You got to react when you have to in certain situations. And to me, especially in kickoffs, well, shoot, they used to kick the ball to a sideline and hem us up. We had to stay there.
Sure.
But now it's a little bit easier. And they used to let all the guys release everybody at once, which was kind of challenging.
Well, and I think as long as you recognize, and I don't use the word in a real negative sense. It's a violent game. There are going to be some tough collisions, and there's going to be some things happen. So if you take that into account, I do agree with trying to create the safest environment possible, but I think sometimes taking some of that aggressiveness and that spontaneity out of the game is hurt it in a couple of ways.
It has, and I understand that, but I just think you got to be on top of it. If you're not sure and nobody's really hurt, let it stand. Let it go. Let it go. Because I've seen times when they made a call and the running backs dropped his head, or especially our little quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They've dropped and put themselves in harm's way when the guy is doing what he's supposed to do, running through the tackle, locking his arms up, locking up and running through them. And he ducks his head, and of course he gets hit. So
yeah, those are tough calls. Those bang calls especially are tough. Let's talk about something else that's a new rule change this year, particularly at the collegiate level, where, and again, it's done both to speed up the game, I think, and for safety. But within the 25, let me rephrase that. On the kickoffs, within the 20, they can fair catch. They can be in the field of play now and fair catch, and they get the ball at the 25-yard line. So you could always obviously catch it in the end zone and down it like you could back in the day. What do you think about that in terms of it changed the dynamic completely at the collegiate level for guys like you?
It sure has. I'm not a proponent of it, truthfully. It's football, so they should, you're going to kick the ball and you got to return it. To me, right now, on both sides, they try to sit down and once again, we're talking about the safety of the players. But for me, it's if a guy has to return a kick on the field of play, then he has to go back and sit, and the offensive scheme has to be implemented. Mm-hmm. So that's the way it should be. A guy has to return the ball. To me, it's the only way it should be done. But now, if you're trying to get field position and try to It's a matter of scheme they're trying to present. I'm not a proponent of it, to be honest with you.
Well, I know, obviously there has always been gaming or scheming of the situation in football, but now that creates a whole nother dynamic because for all intents and purposes, a coach can create a scheme starting at the 25 every single time. Unless they squib kick it or it gets, recovered further out, it starts in the same place. So I do tend to agree because as an old school fan of the game and seeing guys like yourself, that was an exciting part of the game that's almost been taken away now because of this dynamic with the rule change.
To me, that is one, the kickoff, man, you can imagine a guy breaks one and goes to the 40, boy, the excitement, the momentum.
Sure.
And then again, if he's stopped on the 10 or 15-yard line, boy, the other team or the opponents get that momentum shift. So to me, I think you're talking about momentum changers in a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. I just change gears here a little bit and talk about something that I hear or heard a lot when I was coaching high school ball is, kids get enamored with, well, if I can't go play for this D1 school, fill in the blank, I'm not going to try, There's this myth out there about, well, if you're going to go to the NFL, you got to come from a major program, and coming from Widener College, obviously, as a D3 program in Pennsylvania, out of Chichester High School, here you are, smaller than normal guy, got overlooked a little bit because of your size, but your speed was huge. What do you think about, and what would you say to the young TD or the young Billy Johnson who was in high school or even getting ready just to step into college at some level other than D1 about, hey, you can still make it if you've got the tools?
Well, I think, right now the way they can go out and research and recruit athletes, if you're talented, if you're doing well at a small college, they're going to look at it. They're going to hear about it. Let me say that. They're going to hear about it.
Sure.
They may say, well, he's from that conference. Forget him. He's from this conference. But I really think, though, a lot of guys from small schools can play on the next level if given the right opportunity. A lot of them, they're just overlooked. Or they just bring him in for the sake of we brought him in to shut people up. And that's what happened. I think that's what happened with me and the Eagles. They just thought, well, if I come in, he's a hometown guy, they might get upset because we cut him, and so we're not even going to think about bringing him in. I really do believe that with good coaches, there are good coaches everywhere. And if a guy can play, he can play anywhere. It's just getting that opportunity. So I would tell a young man, if that's where you want to go, at least go somewhere where you can get on film and they can see it. Because once they see what you're doing, they say, well, let's see how he does up here. You're going to get that opportunity. To me, and plus I think it's so much better. The only thing we miss is the money they get in the big schools. I'm joking. I'm not joking, no. But, it's just that, you probably, of course, you get better dorms and fields and uniforms and things like that. But, no, I think you even it out when you come on the field and you're able to show what you can do.
That's great. What given what you just said, what do you think about this this rule? Well, it's not a rule change. The dynamic that's being created right now and evaluated by the NCAA after this. The House and Senate in California passed this law where guys are going to be able to be compensated for their name and likeness. What do you think about that?
That's a can of worms. It really is. I think if that's the case, then it has to go down to, because you're not only talking about guys now, you're talking about girls. Remember that Rule 9?
Absolutely.
So you're talking
Title
about
9,
men and women. They're opening up a can of worms. They're basically thinking of the most revenue-making sport, which is probably football, maybe basketball. But when you start doing that, you're going to have to look at other programs. I hope they really consider that unless they're going to make an exception, a rule exception for football and maybe basketball. But to me, we're supposed to go to get an education, and we're automatically a scholar athlete because we're playing. We're an athlete who's playing, who's going to school, hopefully to get a degree.
Sure.
So they better be very careful. That's a slippery road there.
I agree with you, and I tell you, there's two angles that I think warrant really, really investigating before they implement anything, and that's how do you legislate it? How do you control it? Because the Power 5 big schools, Power 5 conferences, the big schools that already make hundreds of millions off their programs, theoretically are going to create more visibility for those athletes than the Wideners of the world. And the other thing is the wolves in sheep's clothing that are going to come out and start influencing parents who are then going to influence the athletes.
Oh, yeah.
And it just creates a whole nother dynamic in the recruiting game that coaches are going to have to deal with. And
I would hate to be a coach coach of some of those institutions because it's going to drive you crazy. Well, he's going to go here for more money. And if I'm a coach, I want to get guys who want to be here, who want to play.
Exactly.
I would love to have the exceptional athlete, the 5-star, the 4-star athlete, but I'm not going to put up with all that crap that you have to go through just to get an athlete. And then you're going to have people from the bush jumping out of the bushes trying to pretend they're agents or they're representatives. It's crazy. If they need some legislation to do it, make it fair for everybody. But don't just think because USC or all your Power 5 schools can pay it. I'm just using that as an example.
Right.
But don't think it's not going to go across the board to your and they should. If you do it for football, you should do it for every sport you have.
I agree.
And then, like I say, they should leave them alone. And I just think sometimes they get involved in something they've really never thought about it, all the details. Facts that was going to be involved in that to bring about normalization of athletes getting paid or and all this other stuff. Because athletes know what they're getting into.
Sure.
Believe me. They know what they're getting into. So it's just who's representing them and those who push and who, it's like the squeaky wheel, whoever cries the loudest, they're going to get get that attention. So I really think that if they better go slow. They better table that for as long as they can.
I agree. Yeah, there are a couple of angles I've heard discussed that bothered me, but I think the biggest thing is just the concept of the outside influences that are now going to have to be waded through in the recruiting process. So we'll see what happens. Let me ask you. We got a week after the Super Bowl. We got the XFL coming back, a little spring football league this year.
Yeah.
Of course, that was tried once before, several times, and they're going to start off with the first round of games the week after the Super Bowl this year in February. What do you see as potential for the good of the game type of thing, for the football development itself with a spring league? How do you see that playing out?
It can be very successful, very fruitful for some teams with guys who want to play, guys who they thought, some guys get injured and they still need to play. You don't want to take somebody who's supposed to be a player and get injured and haven't played in a year or two and bring him in and try out. I think it's a great avenue and great vehicle whereby you can get guys who need to get groomed, who need to get that challenge on another level. Mm-hmm. It's like baseball, AAA ball, basically what it is. As long as they're not challenging the NFL, it's not the NFL. As long as you know going in, then I really believe that you're going to get some players who are going to leave that and go right to the NFL. And you're going to have some very good success stories because some of the coaches are real good coaches.
Absolutely.
And that's what some of these kids need.
Yeah, we have several mutual friends that are coaching at the coordinator level and the position coach level, and I'm really anxious to see, because I'm all about supporting creating opportunities.
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of guys don't realize how many are out there. If they're willing to travel, for instance, going to play in another country. There's professional leagues all over the world that a lot of people are not aware of. But certainly the XFL provides an opportunity here in the States in some major cities, major markets that guys can get seen and hopefully get that opportunity.
And they don't have to go to Canada. That's the good thing about it. You can stay in the state. And I really think it can be a real good situation for players want to get tested before they go to the next level.
Well, that's a great way to look at it. I definitely think that despite the rules differences that they have in the XFL, I just read through those the other day, that because we have a lot of experienced major college and or NFL coaches coaching those teams, that it'll be a neat experiment in terms of within that rule change to see how those guys are able to scheme and perform and give guys opportunities to be showcased.
Right,
so
no
to speak.
kickoffs is one I heard.
Yeah,
which is good. That's interesting. That's and I think on that level you may be able to get by with it, but I really think if you do that, eliminate that from the pro game, I think you're hurting it, because that's, to me, that can be a change. A guy gets a punt or gets a kickoff, returns it for positive yards, sets a team up, offensive up in a good position, or that guy can fumble, and defenses has now won the battle. So it's interesting, but I'm anxious to see how effective they play within the new rule changes.
Yeah, I am too. Coach, I want to do something real quick. I'm going to bring up a video, and it's one that I know you've seen before. And I just wanted to kind of walk through, and really what I'd like to do is I'm going to let this thing play first, and go ahead and what I'd love to be able to do is just kind of, as this goes through on a couple of these highlights, is talk through, thinking back in your mind, what were you thinking at the time? What's going through your mind as you're catching the pass, as you're returning the punt or the kickoff? And just talk to us here about what's going on.
Well, basically here it's nothing but a deep in route, and just getting the position so once you catch it, so that you don't get hit. Here it's just a return. Mm-hmm. I'm running for my life. I'm running for my life, and as one of the guys will say, keep your feet moving, keep your eyes open, because very rarely do they get a good shot on you. They just want to hold you up or misdirect you, so that the other guys may make the tackle. This is my rookie season, believe it or not. I'll never forget this. I went backwards, and boy, was I scared, because Sid Gilman was our guy, was our head coach, and boy, rookies had a tough road to hoe with him being there. So I remember that succinctly. My first touchdown ever.
I think you just talked about this,
talked about
you?
this one here, against Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was at the old Astrodome. I can tell by that old nasty carpet
That stuff was hard, wasn't
it was terrible.
Oh, man.
Terrible. And that's why I said I love practicing. We had nice grass fields and stuff.
Yeah, I remember being on the floor of the Astrodome the first time I was in there, and I'm like, this is like playing in a parking lot with a little bit of fuzzies on it.
Yeah,
it was hard as heck.
It was hard as heck. People didn't realize that, You know
what I love? I love to see is that it is the vision. I mean, you, despite the fact, everybody always uses this phrase, speed kills. I mean, obviously it does. Speed's a great equalizer or advantage in any game, certainly football. But how do you think your vision helped you so much, especially in the return game?
Well, first of all, I was a running back in college, and that helped to always know where that heat's coming from. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I played a lot of baseball, so a lot of it was just fielding the ball in the area where you can see, where your periphery,
sure,
where you always. And the best bet is to get to the sideline so you can see they're only coming at you from one angle. You stay in the middle of the field is when you break that first line of defenders. Then you're in good shape. So. You always want to know where you are. That's what happens. Is always know where you are. I'll never forget a coach saying that. Know where you are and know who is defending you. You can have a returning guy, but is he the main headhunter?
Exactly.
Know where he's from.
Exactly.
Know where he is.
All right. So, Coach, this one right here just blew my mind the first time I saw it. This Willie Mays catch over the shoulder here. With your fingertips. What was up with that?
Well, that goes. Well, see, when you play baseball, playing shortstop, and play outfield a lot, you learn how to judge the ball. And
sure.
I think that's what happens to a lot of young returners. They don't position themselves to see the flight of the ball, see how it is. You're watching that point, whether it's going to drop away, it's going to sail away from you. And I just did that for show, though. That was automatic. I wish that were true. I just wanted to catch it and secure it and then, do what I have to do afterwards.
Do you believe in the mantra that as a return guy, you catch the ball with your feet? I was told that by one of my white coaches. You put yourself in position with your feet.
You always square the ball away. You want that ball to cut your body in half, vertically, and then you can go with it. If it floats on you one way or the other, it's in front of you. You catch it with your hands, and then if you drop it, it's right there before you take it. But if you try and catch it with your pads, it's no good. But your feet is what sets you up to catch the ball, and that's true. You get there and always set up. Just like if I'm catching the ball in the outfield, I'm going to set up. Get there and set up so I can go one motion. I'm not going to catch it, then step. No, I'm going to go right through it. So that's what happens.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to something you were talking about earlier. I thought was fascinating. You were describing for me the All-Star game you played in. Recap that a little bit with the level of talent of those guys that came out of your county.
Oh man, yeah. And see, that's the thing people don't realize. In that county, Delaware County has so many great athletes. I'm not saying good, but great athletes. Going back as far as Eminem Tennell, who was a Hall of Famer, who, when I broke the punt return record, his record was the one I broke.
Wow.
And we played his high school. Harrington, he was only like 20 minutes from where I stayed. I didn't realize that at that time. Mm-hmm. But going back on that high school team when I graduated, Capoletti we played against each other in the All-Star game, but John Capoletti was on that All-Delco team, which we were all on it together, who became a Heisman Trophy winner. Randy Grossman was on it, who was a tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers, known for his sure hands, and he was a tough guy. He could block too, but he was really a great receiver who got 3 Super Bowl rings.
Sure.
Then you had Chris Arnold, who played in Birmingham, who got that championship ring, and then Oakland wanted him. He was going to go play with Oakland. He died from a brain tumor. Then you had Don Clune, who played a couple of years with the Giants. He went to the University of Pennsylvania, was a great hurdler there. And he was, who else? There's one more I'm missing. Oh, Steve Shawackum. He played, I think, maybe a year or so with the Baltimore Colts at that time. And I may be missing one more. But we're all on that Delaware County team. And little did we know, we all get a chance to play on the next level.
And go to the big time.
And go to the big time.
That's
but
awesome.
It was a lot of fun. And, those guys, and they were good guys, too. They weren't, they were really good guys to be around, fun to be around.
Well, I tell you, there's been a couple of other situations I know of where a concentration of talent like that came out of one school or one county or whatever, and it's amazing when that happens. And it only happens on a very rare basis. So, Coach, what I want to do is to kind of finish up here. I'm actually going to set relevant to football. I'm going to set a 2-minute timer here and do a little thing called the 2-minute drill. And these are, I've just got 10 questions to go through. There's some related to football, some aren't, just to kind of give the viewers and listeners a flavor of kind of where you are back then and where you were now. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the first one and kind of rapid fire moment. So we're looking back. What was your favorite youth sports moment in any sport, not just football?
Well, it was probably football. I was just a new guy. First time I started playing organized ball, our team went undefeated, and our last 4 games, our starting halfback, I was only 87 pounds, he got hurt. And we went down to play at the convention center in Atlantic City. And we were playing the Belmar Purple Eagles, and they were a hot team. They played the little Quakers and all this other good stuff, but we beat them, and we had an undefeated season. First time that, and the team had only existed for about 2 years.
See, I think undefeated seasons are a thing that are way underrated at any level.
Yeah,
if you go undefeated,
any level,
I believe.
Any level. That's why I remember it so well.
Absolutely.
And I scored the 2 touchdowns in that game. I'll never forget. I caught a pass, as a matter of fact. As a running back catching a pass.
That's awesome. When you were at Widener, favorite college play or game, if there's not a specific play maybe that jumps out in your mind?
Oh, man, that would golly, dang, we had so many good games. But playing against Flanking and Marshall, which was a real good team, and they shut me down one year, and the next year we beat them, and that was great. The challenge there and having fun, and that was because we respected them, they respected us, and it was really a good game.
Yeah, I appreciated playing in games like that when I was in high school and college. At any level, did you have a favorite coach that you remember that really influenced you along the way?
Oh gosh, a coach, yeah, youth leagues. Believe it or not, it was my track coach who prior to that it was Lou Patika, the Bob Shout, of course my football coach Apicella, and above all, Coach Manlove.
Coach Manlove.
He's a man to model. A young man should model himself after a coach like that.
That's awesome.
When you do things wrong, you felt bad because it's like a dad coming after you and talking to you.
I'm so disappointed in you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got you.
He get after you, but boy, he was just fair and just and honest. And pros, of course, you had Bum Phillips and Dan Henning for me. So yeah.
That's awesome. What about on any of the teams? So it's best NFL teammate. Is there somebody that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, gosh, I had a couple. Conway Hayman, C.L. Whittington, Ronnie Coleman, Earl Campbell, of course, Robert Brazil. So we were all like a little family. But I remember that in high school, it was I will say, Art Henry at that time.
That's cool. Away from football, favorite movie? Do you have one you like or a go-to movie?
Yeah, me and my wife. Oh gosh, so many. We liked. We liked The Big Chill. We liked Malcolm X. Golly day. Too many to mention.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you obviously got a little bit of movie buff in you. So when nobody's looking, you got a favorite snack food is your go-to?
Why you want me telling myself? That's chocolate.
I love it. Oh, that's my wife joins you there. Julie's a chocolate.
I try to stay away from that, and I do. I have my moments.
Yeah. What about favorite non-football activity nowadays?
Oh gosh, I still like getting weightlifting and still running.
Yeah, I know when you walked in and shook hands with you, you're still pretty solid. I said, Coach been on the weight room a little bit. So if anybody's coming to visit in Atlanta, what would be your first place you would recommend for them to go see?
I would encourage them to probably go to the Martin Luther King Center.
Good choice.
Then you got the other ones. You got Stone Mountain. You've got the College Hall of Fame. depending how ambitious they are. So many places here in Atlanta to go to.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. When you're out for dinner, do you have a go-to meal you like to get?
I'm not a big dinner guy. I don't eat. I just eat so some people live to eat. I just eat to survive. I mean, and I can tell you what I love before I changed my diets from about 30 years ago. But for me, no. I'm not. I used to like a lot of Italian food, so.
Well, eating healthy as we get older is the best way to go anyway, regardless of what it is.
I started about 40 years ago. So.
Yeah, a lot of people may not know, as a closing shot, a lot of people may not know that you played professional slow-pitch softball.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite memory from playing in the league when you were playing?
Yeah, playing against Joe Pepitone from Jersey. Yeah, he was a good guy, and he could hit the ball. I met a lot of former professional athletes like that. And I remember there was one guy named Lawrence Hutchison. They called him, who lived down there in Culpeper, Virginia. Was on our team. Uh-huh. Boy, could he hit the ball. He hit the ball one time in Vet Stadium. That's where Larry, what's his name? First baseman. I think he hit that thing about 410 feet. Wow. Oh, he crushed it. And we didn't have the juice-up balls. We could have, but not at that time. And we probably did later on. So,
well, that's awesome.
But I remember him. Yeah, he was
great.
a good ball player.
Well, I tell you what, Coach, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. It's great to see you again.
Likewise.
And catch up a little bit, but I really, really enjoyed it today. I think that folks will get a little bit different view, and certainly for the football junkies out there that we're hoping to reach, being able to, hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, from one of the guys, the all-time greatest return men in history of the NFL is a special thing, and it's special for me personally and professionally. So I really want to thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, guys, listen, if you haven't done so, be sure to subscribe. We really hope you enjoy the podcast. And remember, if you do anything in football, make sure you do it for the good of the game. Thanks again. Bye-bye.